Hi, I'm Kiran Trace. I'm glad you're with us. Today, we're going to look at this pressure that we get in our systems of how we should be or how we shouldn't be, and the little control that's behind all of that can get in the way because, control is a fiend. But we're going to decode all this today. So here we go. Hi, I'm Kiran Trace. Welcome to Humans Decoded, a story of hobbits, fairies, elves, dwarfs, gnomes, and humans. If you get lost at any point, there is a deep dive on all the different avatars in episode 1. It includes notes. Thank you for joining us in a fun little chat about the vast potential of our human makeup. Hi, Cam. Hi, Leela.
Hey. Hi.
Hey, I wanted to tell you guys something and all the decoders. So we got this little word back that many of the nurses at the Wilcox Medical Center in Kauai, beautiful Hawaii, have been listening to the podcast. And it's been this really cool tool for the nurses because they can use the avatar systems to help decode the behavior of the doctors and the surgeons and maybe even some of their patients. And so I think it is the greatest thing. I'm like, oh my God, nurses everywhere should be doing this because most surgeons are arrogant elves, and a lot of nurses can be hobbits and humans, and how helpful to just know, no, they're not being an asshole to you. They are an asshole because they're an elf. Speaking as a pureblood elf. Also, a lot of doctors and surgeons are dwarfs also, and that's a unique system too with that resilience, A lot of nurses can be too. Anyways, I just thought it was the most brilliant thing. And apparently they can be seen in the corridors of the hospital whispering to each other like hobbit, dwarf, and it's been a great frame of reference. So sending our love to all of the medical staff, but especially the nurses at the Wilcox Center in Kauai.
Big shout out to all of you. Love that you're listening.
Avatar pressures. This control that always wants us to be a little different than how we actually are. And it's like this insipid, obnoxious gas that's invisible running in the background of you're wrong and who you are is wrong and you should be different. And it's we're floating in these gaseous bubbles of it, So let's crack it open. Let's deconstruct it.
Yeah, you're not doing avatars right. Sort of I think we would often get these notes from listeners, and I would hear it from clients that they say, I think let's say I'm an elf, but I like colors. I'm not just wearing all black, which is what we would sometimes, depict as super elfy, wearing all black. Or I think I'm an elf, but I'm not super efficient, or I'm not strategic all the time. Or just recently I had a fairy saying, I am a fairy, but I don't want to wear sparkly things all the time. Or I'm a hobbit, but gardening, I don't care about that. So it feels like if you don't tick all the boxes of that avatar you think you are, you're doing it wrong. But that's not actually true.
It's such a great point, Leila, because it is funny we get pressurized to think that we should be everything that avatar is. So if an avatar, if a hobbit loves gardening, then I should love gardening. And if, it's sort of it's scrolling down the list of everything that avatar is. It's well, if I'm an elf, I must be, I got to take that arrogance to the next level. But it's that pressure that I should be this, I should represent.
And I also feel like the pressure rubs off from other avatars. So I coexist with hobbits a lot of the time, and they love to clean. They're just always doing something. And I notice I put pressure on myself to like, also, I should be busy with the project. I should be busy with like a crafting
It's a great point, Cam.
thing. And yeah, or like, I mean, yeah, the number of sort of little crafting projects that a hobbit can accomplish in a day compared to me is, a lot. So I definitely feel like there's comparison there. There's loads of pressure I put on myself.
Yeah, we live in a world of other people and other people's rhythms. This bubble grabs it and says, "I should be, I should be, I should be," and ironically, it comes from them. Like in our house, John is here and he's a hobbit and he likes to clean up. And when we're putting together the household maintenance and the household chores, we're really listening to like who loves so much to do what, and that's how we kind of put the chore list together. And you guys know this, like when people come to visit, we're like, okay, so let's figure out what your chores will be. And sometimes I'll be like, like, John, do you want to get a break from watering the plants or cleaning up the kitchen? She's like, no, don't take mine from me.
Because he likes it.
He likes it. And then recently another hobbit was here where we were overrun with hobbits. And they were just so happy to trail each other and just all do it together.
Yeah, I was amongst those hobbits and I didn't realize that's what was happening. I'd be like, why don't you want to take a break? Like, why do you still want to do the trash? I don't understand. But yeah, whenever I'm around them, I definitely feel this pressure because they all love cleaning up. And I'm like, I should clean up. Like, I can't even fathom not cleaning up. So then this guilt comes in and then it's a lot harder to find what's actually delicious for me in that moment because I'm like, why am I not more like these people?
I totally get that should. Like, I have that with the hobbits too, that I should be more engaged. I should spend hours and hours in the garden. Or, my old life, I used to do that. Like I would dance for 8 hours and then go to the gym for 2. It was super, super athletic. Or I'd, run. I'd run for hours. I'd wake up in the morning, put my shoes on and go do like a 2-mile run. And then get a break from school and try to get maybe like another, few hours of runs in. I just love to run. It was like this thoroughbred horse, which is like hysterical if you know me now. Decades later, it's a very different story. I was running from a lot of troubles. When the troubles were over, I stopped running. And the authentic pace of the elf became stark. Like a stark contrast.
The armchair expert.
Yeah, exactly. But there is that pressure. The pressure.
Yeah, and I feel like I should be able to go from A to B, but that's just not my natural movement at all. It's sort of like zigzaggy and sort of figure of eights and probably a mini meltdown in between. Before I finally land, which is what it is that I want to do.
Which is beautiful, very Moona.
I was reflecting on my process a little bit, and I realized that in order to finish one painting, I actually need to start simultaneously 5 different ones. So I just need to have 5 different projects on the go, and it's actually a roulette to see which one gets finished. Like, I never actually know.
Anyways, I think it's funny. So there's this circuitous movement in these figure eights, these meltdowns where you just keep adding more plates in the juggle. You just add more plates and randomly one will pop out finished.
Exactly. I never know which one it's going to be. And it's never like I'm actually going to get to the bottom of the pile.
Okay, Fairy Moona, you're never going to get to the end of the pile because the point of the pile is the pile. Like,
yes.
Yeah, and I think a great example for a fairy thing is decorating. You never get to the end of it because there's always another festivity, there's always another occasion, there's always the next season to decorate for. And it's never finished. And I noticed over Christmas this pressure on me that I thought I should want to do that. I should be doing that. But no, thank you. That's not what I like. I like to do a little bit, but then be finished with it, obviously. So it was such a relief and also a joy to actually leave it to the fairy, because they love that. I don't know, other pressures I notice is like I should have more stamina. I should be more consistent with my energy. I should want to do bike rides, huge bike rides all the time. But no, it's not true. That's not true at all. Or I should definitely be doing ELF better and always go from A straight to B, but I don't. I do have this circular way of thinking, of speaking, of moving sometimes. And I'm pretty sure it's pain body. It's not authentic for my system, but I don't know yet when this will come to an end, right? And that's fine. It is not a problem. It's what is in this moment.
I also feel a lot of pressure to be a lot more elfy all the time. So I am very A to B. I'm very strategic. I have a lot of clarity. But what happens, especially like if there's a bunch of hobbits or if there's a bunch of fairies or if I'm around other people where there isn't a strategy at all, where there's no organization at all, I suddenly feel like I have to do it. I have to be the one who does it. And then this pressure in my system to always be strategizing. So it's like a double down on the thing that you always do because no one here is holding it. And it's just this chaos. And it's such a great reminder because that's my pain body. That's absolutely my pain body that says like, I have to fix this or I have to be responsible for all of this. And also there's the true elf in me it's like fingers on a chalkboard to watch, for instance, like a hobbit system just potter and potter and potter and potter and potter and potter and potter, but never actually execute anything. like nothing got cleaned or made or planted or anything. And it's like, like as my elf system. So then I'm like, go and organize them. Like give that potter a purpose, like you like harness that potter to move something. And that's just total pain body instead of just like leaning back and just letting life solve it, So I feel that pressure in myself all the time of like, always be strategizing. Sometimes the hobbits will go in to clean the kitchen and it'll be like, I as an elf think the purpose of the movement is to clean the kitchen. All I know is it's after dinner and they've all wandered in there. And 30 minutes later, I have no idea what was done. Like I'll walk in and be like, what happened here? Because it looks exactly the same. But then I have to remember like, oh, wait, a hobbit was here for 30 minutes. So it's equivalent to what me as an elf would do in 6 minutes.
And what would the equivalent for a hobbit be? Like, what would the pressures that a hobbit would feel like? Would they feel like they need to accomplish 6 minutes worth of their inside of a 30-minute potter?
They feel like they have to have a purpose. They feel like the potter has to be purposeful and strategized. They have to speed up. Oh, it's like oil and water to put an elf and a hobbit in the same space to like cook together or clean together. Of course, it's so beautiful in the Hobbit system. Like they literally show up with zero strategy, like zero idea. And they're just going to walk. They're just going to walk and touch things and smell things and move things and see what occurs. And the elf is so like, I'm going to go to the fridge and I'm going to get everything out of the fridge that I need for dinner. And then I'm going to go and get both of the knives or all the knives I need to make dinner. And I'm going to pull out all the pans that are required for the meal.
I do. And a little sidebar I want to share about tonight's dinner that I obviously cooked in my microwave.
Obviously.
And I ate dinner and I cleaned up and it was all done within, I don't know, less than 10 minutes maybe. And the satisfaction I got from that.
Right, the purpose.
I don't know if I can convey that. But just to look around, I didn't use any pots. I only used the plate that I heated up my food in. And that, to me, to my elf system is like, I don't know, it's orgasmic almost. I was so pleased.
I 100% agree with you. We are hacks. And if you have hacked this to its greatest hack, then it's so satisfying. But put in the mix of, imagine walking with like 3 or 4 hobbits or add a fairy in there, and they want 12 pans.
Yeah, and they're mortified by just using the microwave. They hate that thing.
And they're going to do 1,200 steps in making dinner on their stepwatch, and the value for them is all of these little steps a potter suddenly turned into this thing. So they're orgasmic because it's like this really delicious and beautiful dinner. And let's face it, if you're baking or cooking, to go slowly, step by step, the end result is very beautiful. So,
yes,
the best baking and the best cooking suddenly arose out of that pottering where there was no strategy at all. There was no plan at all. I think ultimately, to Leela's point earlier, is that if you don't have every characteristic of your avatar, it doesn't mean that you're not that avatar.
And it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It's so safe to just be you and be the version of whatever avatar you are, to just be you, just as you are, with all the stuff, with all your pain body bits, with all the behaviors that are conditioning, with all the behaviors that are not authentic. Like, that isn't bad. That is okay. It's so fine.
Yeah, I think that's so brilliantly lit. And if you can just erase, I'm not saying that you could, but imagine if I could go in and I had an eraser and I could erase all the pressure out of your system, just with my magic fairy wand, you would find you so much more easily. And that doesn't mean it's a you without pain bodies coming in to shape something. And just as Leela had mentioned earlier, like, you don't know when you're going to be done with those pain bodies, like.
No, it's not your business to know.
Yeah, it's your business to see them, to witness them, but you're not in control. We can't put control or to chase down that. And so it's like, if in any way this conversation could help highlight any of those, what might feel like a subtle should right now in your system, or maybe even invisible, if this conversation just helped float that up to the top so that you can hear that should a little louder, so that like, oh, this might not be accurate. And it might roll out anyways, but now I'm witnessing something inaccurate rolling out here. Would be amazing.
I think my shoulders have dropped about an inch since the beginning of this episode. I feel like it can't be repeated enough that it's just safe to be who you are, where you are, and you don't need to add another pressure to be the perfect avatar on top of all the pressures you're probably already trying to get through. I could hear it 1,000,001 times and it wouldn't be enough. It's just always such an exhale to hear that it's okay to be where you are. It's safe. It's okay that you're showing up with pain body or showing up a little awkward. It's all fine. And I know in my own exploration of fairy, sometimes that's true. Like, it's janky and weird. But it's, always just such an exhale to know that it doesn't need to be an extra pressure to show up in a certain way, to just kind of release it all.
Yeah, I agree. And also just like, even how you express fairy in this moment isn't necessarily the way you're going to express fairy in 4 years from now, when you've unraveled some of those shoulds and you've unraveled some of those pain bodies, and they have let go of themselves finally. That in this moment, if you don't have every single characteristic of the hobbit or of a gnome, it doesn't mean that you're not the gnome. And the gnome expression in this moment might be really different in 5 years. And we would hope that it is. I mean, this whole program is about evolution. right? We are the evolving train. There's a reason we're decoding things. We're decoding things and evolving. And so there's an expectation of change and healing and personal growth, as they say, to go beyond our current habits. So, just that invitation. You are enough. Sweet to get that reminder, just as you're saying, Cam. I'm wondering if you could give us a little catch up. I know you had this really fun film this weekend, and I'm just dying to hear about it. And I think the other decoders are too.
Yeah, I have some catch up. I was on a really fun shoot for a sports brand. And we had, so the lead in it was a female athlete who's really well known, and she has like a thick body. So like super built. But as soon as she showed up on set, every single person, like their jaw dropped, because she wasn't like conventionally beautiful, but she was a dwarf, and she was just like oozing sex appeal. I mean, just the presence, like she just lit up the camera. Literally everyone on set was like looking at each other like, whoa. Just totally swooning.
That dwarf sex appeal, that's not at all what we project to be sexy. And they show up and they're so sexy.
Yeah. And like it was for a sports brand. So she was glammed up, but she was still like in kind of athlete gear. And it was just like mesmerizing, just like hugely charismatic. And I kept sort of, to anyone that would listen, I was like, she's a dwarf. She's a dwarf. That's why she's so sexy. She's a dwarf.
So eventually we'll look for this ad coming out. Look for a famous dwarf woman athlete. And you'll know that Cam was on that shoot. And it was helpful to let everyone know, because a lot of the people on your shoots listen to the podcast. So they know.
Yeah.
They know the avatars.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's similar to that. The story of the hospital is similar to the early days of this podcast, when I told all of my film friends, and we were all like trying to decode on set, like, who's a dwarf? Who's a hobbit? So yeah, anyone that would listen, I'm like, see, dwarf, sexy.
That's fun. Okay, well, it's been a great chat and fun to play with everybody. We'll be back here next week.
See you soon.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. We obviously love hearing what you think. Your feedback helps us make a better show for you to listen to. So feel free to comment, and you can do it at Facebook, which is the Humans Decoded podcast. And if you're not on social, you can always email any questions to us at outreach@kirantrace.com. And thanks for listening. We love you.